What's up, everyone? Welcome to Through the Veil, episode number 8. In this episode, I dive deep on the topic of masculinity with my friend Nathan Kohlerman. And this was a really good episode. I think both of us have a lot of shared experiences around growing up and feeling like we needed to be a certain way as men, and as we got further in our maturity, kind of realizing that that was all bullshit, and what really defines you being a man is totally different than what society at large kind of presents to you when you're a child, and growing up in that paradigm. So I hope you enjoy this one. We really both approached it from a very vulnerable place and really opened up about our own experiences growing up as men. So I hope you dig it. If you do, please consider dropping a 5-star rating if you're listening on iTunes. If you're watching on YouTube or somewhere else, then please consider commenting, liking the video, and subscribing. And as always, the most helpful thing you can do is to share this out with a friend. I really think this episode is something a lot of young men especially need to hear. So if you can share this out to someone you think could use this episode as a example, that would be awesome. But yeah, without any further ado, let's dive right in. So, Nathan, welcome to the podcast. If you can tell me a little bit about what it is that you do, and just briefly describe kind of what you're working on right now and what's getting you excited in life right now.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Alex. So I am a movement coach. So I have a wide variety of education tools, skills in which I created New Intention, which is a brand that is built to redefine human optimization through mind, body, and soul, coming from places of awareness, intention, and action, really having a firm awareness of what's really happening within the body and having awareness of different faulty patterns and compensations that we encounter on a day-to-day basis that have become subconscious to a point where we don't even realize that the dysfunction even exists. So I primarily do that through movement assessments. And from there, I address any type of pain and going into the body and saying, okay, what's going on in your body? Are you pain? Are you in pain? Are you discomfort? Are you experiencing discomfort? Are you immobile? Are you stiff? Are you restricted from doing anything you want to do in your life? And then creating movement and flow and expression with a very spiritualistic aspect and approach to where I really empower my clients to really listen to their bodies and perform what movements they feel are the best for them in that present moment. I haven't written a paper program for a client to come in over 3 years. And that's because I look at somebody walk through the door, and if I were to write a program and they're walking a little bit differently, I feel in my heart that the program is therefore invalid. So I really come from a place of presence and understanding and compassion. So, my mission is to eventually move into the transformational recovery coach pathway. And I'm starting to work and attend different retreats. I'm actually co-hosting a retreat to Bali in September, right before our summit in Sedona.
Yeah.
I actually fly in that Friday and drive up to Sedona that very same day.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And, just really helping people understand, where their addictions are coming from, and knowing that their addictions are not just a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction. Sometimes they have an addiction to being right. They have an addiction to being in control. They have an addiction to their own suffering, which I personally experience every single day, that I have to mindfully work and create pathways to navigate my own. So, I'm on this very powerful pathway of just building very strong communities around me and providing as much value and just giving people and empowering people the tools they need to live their best life and to heal themselves.
It's awesome. I love it. I think it's a beautiful thing that you don't write people programs ahead of time, because I used to be a certified personal trainer, and that's one thing I would notice a lot is like, for a long time I was fucking just writing these programs, just like writing these cookie cutter things for people, and then just like, I'm like, why did I write they should do a pistol squat when A, they don't fucking know what that is, and B, they definitely can't do one? Like, I don't know. So I'm totally with you. I think the best way is to be able to analyze the person in front of you and go, oh, like your left leg is broken. Okay, no squats. Sorry. Like it's an extreme example, but kind of gets at the spirit of it. So kind of how we connected, we're both in Aubrey Marcus's Fit for Service, and we had talked a little bit on Instagram about just the topic of masculinity, which I think is a woefully under talked about topic for men. And I think both you and I, from talking to you a little bit before this, probably have similar backgrounds in the way that our masculinity has probably progressed over time, and how at a younger age, and even, you know, fairly recently for me, it's been a very negative part of my life, and only now it's started to transform into a positive part of my life. So I'd be curious just to hear how your story has progressed over time, and just how you've gone through the different steps of your masculinity, and how that's evolved for you over time as you've become more conscious of it, become more aware.
Yeah, most definitely. And then I'm definitely interested to hear your side. But yeah, man, I think it started, even just by the age of 8. You know what I'm saying? Like being in the backyard, and we had this like crazy looking freaking fucking emu thing, dude. We had like a mini ostrich in our backyard, and I used to have glasses and braces, so it used to chase me because of the shiny stuff. And it had these giant claws. Terrified of the bird, terrified. And I remember my dad like yelled at me because I was crying. Stop crying. Like, okay, men don't cry.
Right.
And then kind of progressing through that and going into high school football and wrestling, and oh well, you're gay if you wrestle around with men. You're gay if you do this. You're gay if you do that. I'm like, well, like, dude, I was just kissing my girlfriend like over for my wrestling match. What do you mean?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's like if you make physical contact with men, now it's already proposed that there's some type of homosexuality there, which I, first off, don't have an issue with. Second off, not really. It doesn't really make sense. And then being in football, it's like, oh, you're hurt? Well, quit crying about it. Rub some dirt on it. Get up. Get the fuck back in there and do what you need to do. You know, and then just my experience going through like gang culture and addiction. Gang culture was men don't respect women, like don't. They're beesies and bitches and this and this and that, and it's a word for a derogatory term for every single woman that you come in contact with. And it's like, well, they don't deserve respect because you're the man, you're the man, you're the man. And then going into drugs, it's like, well, you're the connect, so if she wants drugs, she has to do this, right? So like there's been this weird counteractive balance of where a man's place in society is and a woman's place in society. And I think I experienced that the most in the military. Like after 5.5 years in the Army, like I saw sexism at its finest.
Yeah.
And I rode that train for a little bit, not gonna lie. I was big macho Sergeant Kohlerman, this, that, and the third. And
right.
Some of the females would say, well, I can do whatever you can do. I've been like, yeah, let's go.
Right. Go ahead.
I'm saying, like, challenge accepted. You want to act bad, let's do it. And that was my mentality at the time. And I look back, I'm like, God, that was really stupid, because there are some girls out there who are outrunning me.
Yeah. Like, shit. Take an ego blow on that one.
Exactly. And then going into my journey through bodybuilding, that's probably where I saw the first rise of women being more successful than men in my life, at least. Because I didn't see a lot of female success in sports. I didn't see a lot of female success in drugs. I didn't see any success in drugs.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of success in the military unless, it was maybe 1% of the women actually like scaled it up, but that's because the military had always had that tradition or those like weird compromised values. But when I was a bodybuilding competitor, I saw, women getting the majority of the attention. And it brought about this like jealousy. Like, this is such a subjective sport, and why are they getting more credit? Why are they getting more followers? Why are they getting more likes? Oh, you're just putting ass pictures on Instagram. That's why. And I would justify me trying to like bring them lower. That was pre-programmed. And, now in this journey, out of that bodybuilder ego environment, experiencing injury, and having to ask women for help a lot of the time. And even now working with trainers who are women, who are much smarter than most of the other male trainers I know. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, I know a lot of very smart women trainers. I know a lot of very smart men trainers. And I really can't tell the difference between the two now.
Yeah.
And what I'm noticing even now, it's like women are rising in power. Like, some of the best online fitness coaches who have the most successful businesses are women's coaches, because women have the ability to connect with women. And now I'm in this place, and, thankfully with the Fit for Service Mastermind with Aubrey, it's like, we are all equal. We are all love. We are all connected. And there should be no judgment. We should be choosing the track of love, not the track of fear. Where now I kind of look at it and I'm like, wow, I really respect women, and I really do give them kudos. And I think as a man now, I think the biggest transition for me was understanding that women are rising in power because they're rising together. But why aren't men doing that? And I'm looking at the timeline, and I'm looking at the story, and men have never been vulnerable with men, because if a man cries, what is he? He's weak. If a man has any type of physical contact, then he's gay. If a man has any sense of weakness, or insecurity, he's crazy. So it's like, I use this term a lot when, especially with me wanting to go and dive into retreats, and especially even men's retreats.
Yeah.
Building men up in a world that really has knocked them down. And it's not the fact that women are bashing men, it's men that are bashing men.
Yeah.
So how do we change the paradigm on that? It's kind of where I'm at now. I'm at Masculinity, and being very comfortable in my masculinity, to know that I am okay with having femininity as well. There has to be an equal energy balance there.
Exactly.
You're just constantly in confliction with your soul. Like, you just don't feel right. Like, I can't walk around like, oh, I'm a macho man. Like, I feel stupid if I do that now. Like, why would I? Like, I'd much rather be very deeply connected and emotional, and being able to share the same experience and conversations and connections with both men and women, to where now we are equal parts. So that's kind of been my journey.
That's awesome. That touched on a lot of points that I think correlate well with my journey as well.
And
I love it. Yeah, go ahead.
Too, because this is the conversation that we had on Instagram.
Yeah.
The comments back and forth. It's like, in football, it's like, oh, you banged her? Like, oh, nice job, bro. Like, in the military, oh, you banged her? Oh, she's a slut, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? And there's always been like a negative connotation with how men are sexually driven to women, and even why we choose women as sexual partners, because we want to fill some type of void, and we want to boost our ego from it. And now it's like, I could care less what you look like. If we can sit around and talk for 6 hours and have a deeply emotional conversation, or if we can really connect, like, that's what I'm more worried about. That's what I'm more interested in now.
Absolutely. I think that's the healthy piece on the other side of the veil, once you pierce through it. And that, I know for me, what I've noticed, I'll touch on quick and then I'll jump back to my story a little bit. But what I've noticed is the reason that so many of these hyper masculine cultures have a demeaning demeanor towards women is because they need to dehumanize them to feel good about the things that they're doing. So for you to just be like, oh, I'm just out here fucking bitches, bro. It's like, the guys are doing that because if they really admitted to themselves that they were just having these super, super shallow interactions, which I've fucking been there for a long time, then it's very empty and it doesn't feel good. So they have to figure out some way to like justify, like, no, and make it a competition and just, oh yeah, you did that. Cool, bro. Nice. Yeah. And it's no knock on sleeping with people. Sleep with as many people as you want, as a man or a woman. Do your thing. But it's coming to that healthy understanding on the other side where you're looking for something a little bit deeper. you're trying to actually forge real connections. And that can still be within one night. It doesn't have to be you were seeing someone for 4 months before you slept together. But when you're actually looking for something a little bit deeper, you're not just disrespecting the person you're sleeping with and trying to trick them into doing something. Here's me open. Here's who I fully am. Are you interested? You are. Okay, let's hear who you are. Now I'm interested. Awesome. Let's do this. It's a totally different paradigm.
Yeah, it's not that shallow emptiness where you wake up the next morning and you're like super shameful and you just have this like gross feeling and you're like,
Yeah. How fast can you get out of my house?
why did I do that?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, I don't even remember your name.
Yep.
That for me was my breaking point.
Yeah.
The day I didn't remember somebody's name, I felt like such an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't want, and I saw her face.
Yeah.
It was like, damn, like that really hurt her.
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to change.
Absolutely. And I think it's a drug addiction, alcohol addiction. A lot of these things go hand in hand with this because you often find, for me, it was alcohol addiction for a very long time. And you often find that to be continuously displaying this behavior, you have to numb yourself in some way. And a lot of times that takes the form of drugs or alcohol, because you can't just keep doing that forever without feeling some emotional void that isn't getting filled. So it's like, how can I dumb myself down a little bit so I'm not thinking so much about what I'm doing, because the internal me is screaming out like, hey, asshole, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, dude. And I think that was my thing with heroin too, man. It was just like, I used heroin for a multitude of reasons back in the now I'm discovering, but especially when I had interactions with women or girls at the time, because I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more of a sense to numb myself from, again, like you just said perfectly, these thoughts, and I think that's the biggest downside of like where the masculine, feminine border was drawn with sexuality. It's like, those next day thoughts, like, and what you really feel about yourself because you treated something like it was a fish and game prize rather than a human, and to be honest, like nobody feels good after that. I mean, unless you're a narcissist, but
Yeah.
you know,
And there could be temporary, I always noticed for myself, there'd be temporary joy in it, just like, kind of like, yes, I did it. And then very quickly following, just like, huh.
just, oh, I did it.
Yeah. And then like, well, I guess I need to go do it again because that'll fix this. And then,
Is that always
huh. Yeah. More of the same. Didn't change anything. Weird. Strange.
do the same thing over and over and expecting a different result?
Yeah. And it kind of like, so I remember my journey from when I was younger. So when I was maybe 15, 14, I was like the sweetest guy ever. Super, super nice. But I think there's a continuum. And on that continuum, it's like, there's the nice guy, but he's being nice to get something. You're not genuinely nice. And that was me at 14 or 15 and 16, was like, I was nice to get something. I was nice so that someone would like me so they would sleep with me. Not just, I genuinely care, just nice for a result. And then I kind of noticed that fucking doesn't work because it's creepy, turns out. So then I started to swing more in towards like being the party guy, being the fun guy, a little bit of a douchebag, and just kind of like not overtly disrespectful, but just not caring very much. And that started to work a little bit. I'm like, oh, great, this is working. Oh my God, this is the thing. So it's like I rode that train for a long time, and that got me deep into partying all the time and deep into alcohol. And, at one point I was drinking like 4 nights a week, just going out and fucking hitting it hard. And it was through a series of mushroom journeys that I did. I did 4 deep mushroom journeys of about 5 grams each in about 8 months time span. And that kind of woke me up to the fact that I was seeking love. I was really just out seeking love, but I wasn't putting, I kind of liken it to this. When you're out there not being yourself, you're not giving anyone any parts of yourself that are real for them to actually love. You're just giving them a facade, and nobody's going to love a facade. They might sleep with a facade, but they're not going to love a facade. So the mushroom journeys kind of showed me that. It's like, hey, you're not putting any of your real self out there because you're scared. And that's why you're not getting any of what you're actually seeking. You're only getting this shallow surface result of just the physical pleasure and maybe the momentary reprieve of the thoughts in your mind spinning. And like on the other side of that, I started to drink way less, and I started to craft some more real intentional friendships. I started to go out sober sometimes. I started to actually talk to people and actually be interested in what they had to say and actually to share of myself. And I think it was funny because I started to almost come back full circle to the nice person I was before, but this time it was from a place of genuine interest and not of trying to get something, of just like, hey, I want to go out, and if I can make someone's day a little bit better, that'd be awesome. And turns out that works just as good. And you can meet just as many amazing people, but the difference is they start to become real deep lasting relationships. And that's the thing I think, I wish someone would have taught me in high school. I wish someone would have taught me at that young age, that you don't have to be this bad person to get results, and you don't have to be this bad person to be masculine, to be a man, but you do have to be genuine, and people can sniff out when you're being disgenuine. And it's a hard thing to learn as a kid, but it's like in my adult age, nothing's been more effective for me than being genuine and like going, here's who I am. If you don't like it, oh well, it's not the end of the world, but I'm not out here trying to trick people like I used to be, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and I mean that's something that really resonates with me, because what I found, especially through my DMT journey, was I'm wearing all these masks, and I have this macho trainer mask, and I have this, very loving relationship mask, and then I have this very insecure mask, and then I have this very, angry mask. And it came to a point, I think you can resonate with this as I resonated with yours, is that, dude, I wasn't showing up. Like, I wasn't, and I wasn't doing anybody. I wasn't doing anything but doing myself a disservice.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's like you were searching for love, and I think we all are in a way, and we're all on those paths, especially me growing up in a very destructive, abusive household.
Yeah.
Me seeing, parents fighting, spitting on each other, throwing at each other, yelling all the time, and then divorcing. And to me, I thought that was love for a long time.
Yep.
Even to a point where when I was competitively bodybuilding, I thought it was okay at one point to put my hands on somebody.
Yeah.
It's never okay.
Right.
Ever. And I've definitely made my amends to that, and that's far behind me. But, that kind of showed me that was a mask, trying to shield something, trying to control love.
Yep.
I think something especially that we were taught as men is that, if we're men, then we can control the outcome because we're stronger and because we have different needs, when I think we both learned that women and men have these same needs.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, women have more of those needs than men.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty powerful that you're saying that, and thanks for sharing, because I think that mask is ultimately, in my opinion, what's driving these conflictions within the soul with a lot of men. Being able to touch into that compassionate side.
Yeah, and not being scared of it, because I think what happened to me as a kid was I got scared off of that being compassionate, because I would get such not even negative reactions, but I was just in the friend zone a lot. I think that happens to a lot of guys when they're young, where they're like, they try being nice and then they find that they're everyone's friend and nobody likes them though. And it's just having coming from that genuine place of looking at every person in front of you as a person first before you look at them as a sexual partner was what was the game changer for me. Because then I'm like, okay, I'm genuinely interested in this person who's in front of me, man or a woman, doesn't matter who I'm talking to. I want to talk to them and learn about them. And then if past that, there's some other interest that goes on, then amazing. But first, it's this genuine interest, and it's not being nice to get something. Because I think that's a spot a lot of people get tripped up, and it's a certain spot I got tripped up for a long time and swung too hard the other way. And you see people, what's the saying? It's like if you really love a rose, you'll leave it in the ground and you'll go there and water it every day. But if you try to cut the rose out of the ground and take it home with you, it'll die very quickly. And it's just such a beautiful metaphor for love, because when you try to control it and you try to take it home with you and just like you're in this lacking mentality, not this abundance mentality, you'll find very quickly that it goes away because you can't control it, not for very long at least. It may seem like you can for a little bit, but I think it was it's Dr. Jordan Peterson. I don't know if you've listened to him at all, but he had a saying. He's like, if you go home and have an argument with your wife and you're trying to win and you win the argument, then you're living with someone who's defeated. And why do you think you've done yourself a service by making yourself live with someone who's defeated all the time? Like, if you don't think that's going to affect you in a negative way over time, then you're not thinking about it. So it's like this mindset of control. You're hurting the other person, yes, but you're hurting yourself in the long run too, because then you're living like, does anyone really, when they write down their list of things they want in a relationship, like, I want someone who's so weak that I can control them all the time and they have no original thoughts of their own? It's like, I don't think anyone's aiming at that. So why do we manifest that and try to get that to work?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, for me personally, where it kind of comes from is that, if you like somebody, you're mean to them. If somebody's mean to you in school, that means they like you.
Yeah.
Right. Dude, that is probably what I've come to realize was probably the most useless piece of information I've ever learned in my human life.
Absolutely.
Because that never works.
Mm-hmm.
It never works. And I'm sharing my personal experience. Like, that's why, we're together now again, but that's why I lost my relationship in the first place, is because I thought that if I could control how she loves me because of my own insecurities and because of my own feelings and voids, I thought that it would make it better. But come to find out, everything I was asking for was not her way of showing me love.
Yeah.
It was not my way of even receiving love, because the only way we can receive love is to give it freely.
Yes.
And it being able to accept whoever is able to give it in the way they choose to do it. And, it's in the book that we're reading for the mastermind, that first month of the third quarter of the Mastery of Love.
Yes.
And dude, your garbage is your garbage. Their garbage is their garbage. And you don't go into a relationship and you don't go and buy a dog looking for a cat, or you don't go in and buy a cat when you're looking for a dog.
Yes.
You can't buy a dog and tell it to meow. It doesn't work. And quite frankly, that even if that dog did meow, it's no longer a dog, and now you're no longer happy with that dog.
And you probably took too many mushrooms.
Yeah, and in no way am I referencing a woman to a dog right now. But behind it is just so powerful to me.
Right, goes both ways.
It allowed me now to receive her love openly, and being able to understand, like, even if it doesn't bring me some sense of fulfillment, it's not on her. Yeah, it's on me, and there's something on my mind and in my heart that I need to address and acknowledge and appreciate what she's trying to do, even if I'm not personally in a place to give it back. But then I have to remember not to be guilty or not to be shameful if I can't show it back in that present moment.
Yeah.
Because in, law 4 agreements, don't take things personally. If you want this relationship to work with an agreement, then if I decide to show you love and you don't show me love back, like that's okay.
Mhm.
And that was so hard for me, like the hardest for me, because I've always seen a relationship as, oh, it always has to be 100. And I used to say 50-50.
Yeah.
And I stopped really quick saying 50-50 when somebody said, that's not a relationship.
Mhm.
That's a bartering exchange.
Yeah. And a codependency.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's when I realized when I lost her, I had those symptoms of codependency.
Yeah.
Which all align with those addictions and alcoholisms and how we
Yep.
numb ourselves. But the only thing is now we're not numbing ourselves with a substance. Now we're numbing ourselves with a feeling or a story we're telling ourselves.
Right.
Because we don't feel as though we're even worthy for that love.
It's why that aspect of control gets so, it can cause such strong emotions, because it's the same as if your heroin gets taken away. It's the same as if these other things get taken away, because of the scary shit that's living just below your conscious mind starts to bubble up as soon as your lover, your girlfriend, is not fulfilling your numbing that you're looking for, that ego numbing. And as soon as that stops, then all of a sudden the shit that you've been trying to ignore and doing everything in your power to not look at starts to come up. So then it's like, what the fuck? I can't believe you would do this to me. You're making me feel so shitty. And it's like, no, that's your shit. That's internal. And, in my case, my shit that's internal, that's bubbling up. And I had so many negative relationships before my girlfriend that I'm been with for 3 years now. I had so many negative relationships that were just born out of like mutual insecurity. And just like you're saying, both being 50%. And I look at it like, if you imagine the Eiffel Tower in 2D, it's like you're both one pillar. And then if your pillar isn't sturdy or her pillar isn't sturdy, that fucking building up here is going to tip over whichever way. So you both need to be 100% and have a strong base. And then if you have those strong bases, then you can build something beautiful. And it can go much higher than you could both go individually. But if one of your bases is fucked up, or in most cases, if both of your bases are fucked up, that thing's not going to work. And they can't be over holding your side, because if they come over to hold your side, their side falls down. And same, right. Vice versa. I think it's, as with all versions of trying to help people, it's like you have to help yourself first and get yourself to the place of wholeness as much as you can. It's a constant process, but as much as you can. And the more whole you can be, the more you'll actually have to offer, because your cup will be full and then you have some to give.
Right. And I think as men, that's just so important, because I think that, especially from my experience, like, dude, if you would have talked to me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, like, I'd be like, emotions? You want to talk about our emotions? Like, no.
Right.
I don't need to.
Yep.
But that's just not human nature, So I think it is really powerful, that Eiffel Tower analogy. I'm totally going to use that from now on.
Yeah.
Because I still see my codependency therapist.
Mm-hmm.
I still, I'm putting in the work to understand, like, okay, well, this is a better way to do things. I like this journey a lot more, and it does nothing for either party. And you said it beautifully, that, if one side is bent, or if it's not sturdy, it's just going to collapse on top of the side that's not sturdy.
Right.
And it'll always be the person who's not sturdy that it collapses on. And I say that because, and you even said it, that feeling when you come off the drugs, dude, I kid you not, when I came home and she was gone and that dog was gone, like, I was having physical withdrawal. Felt like I was coming off of heroin all over again.
Yep.
And it wasn't even until that rock bottom moment that you're like, oh, wow, I have a problem.
Yes.
And, anybody who's ever suffered from any type of addiction, which is a lot of people,
yes,
have felt that in some way, shape, or form, whether it be mental, emotional, physical, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. You talked about going to codependency therapy. I mean, I think therapy of some form is so huge for men. I think men are drastically underrepresented in terms of the people that actually go seek out therapy, because we're taught to be tough and we're taught to not have these emotions. And it's like such a bullshit story. Like, everyone has emotions. Like, yes, men and women are different, but they are different not in whether or not they have emotions. They are different in maybe how assertive they are. And even that, it's a spectrum. So it's like for many men to think like, oh, I shouldn't go seek therapy because then I'll be a little bitch. It's like, no, actually, you'll be a more effective human. And then you'll be 40 million steps ahead of everyone else in your journey. And you'll be laughing at the idiots that thought that therapy made you a little bitch on your golden throne of money because you're such a healed human. Like,
Right.
it's the way to look at it.
Yeah. And I mean, that's something I love talking about because I mean, how many times do you hear about like couples or marriages falling apart, literally falling apart, and men are literally about to lose their wife.
Mm-hmm.
They're about to lose their kids. They're about to lose their house, their cars, their jobs over this.
Yeah.
And the only thing that their wife asks or anything that their partner asks is, can we go to therapy? And for some reason, and I used to be this way too, because I was married at 19, got divorced at 21. Dude, like I was like, no, I don't want to go to marriage counseling. Right. I don't need that. Like, I don't need somebody else to tell me how to fix our marriage. Like, we don't need anybody else telling us what to do. But then that's the addiction of control switching on. And like, I literally went to my codependency therapist an hour before we jumped on this.
Yeah.
You know, and we made some amazing breakthroughs. We looked at everything and how the way I behave my partner with my girlfriend now all stems from those child behaviors, from those traumas,
yes,
even from the examples that our parents set for us.
Yeah.
And it turns out, you know, and I'm, again, a work in progress, just like everybody else, reflecting a lot of the same behaviors my father carried.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is most men, and I shouldn't say most men I've talked to say what? They don't want to be anything like their father.
Yep.
And what do we end up being most like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, on that topic, I had a revelation, whatever you want to call it. A message came through to me on my ayahuasca trip this last weekend, and that was just that the things that you're good at as an adult are a roadmap to your traumas you experienced as a child. And like that shit just hit me like a fucking lightning bolt, and it rang so true immediately because it's exactly what you're talking about. And it's, if you critically analyze yourself, which could be difficult if you're so deep in it, it's really hard to critically analyze yourself. But look at your behaviors. If you're an angry person all the time, you're good at being angry.
Yeah.
And then that came from somewhere. And typically it came from somewhere in your childhood where you didn't feel enough. So you started to lash out because it got a response, or you saw anger all the time. So you emulated it because it's the only way you knew how to be. But a lot of these things, when you start to break them down and you start to look at them, you can start to see directly where they came from. And like you're saying, so often it's shit that you told yourself when you were a kid. You're like, I'm never going to be like that. I don't want to be like that. It's like, it creeps up on you. If you don't look at it, that shadow just grows and grows. And all of a sudden it's this fucking huge monster you have to confront. And I think for so many men, particularly, they could cut that monster in half by going and seeking out the therapy that maybe they need. Or I'm a huge advocate for plant medicines in the right circumstance because the
100%.
ego dissolving effect of it. Going and seeking that out, maybe even before you need it, being proactive about it is just so massive. And it's been massive for me to intermittently go and check my own ego, because I have the tendency to let my ego spin off and just start thinking I'm like hot shit and I deserve this and I deserve that. And it's like I need to check myself every so often and have a legitimate conversation, both with my partner, but also like sans ego internally, to go, where am I at? Okay, why am I doing this, this, and this? Oh, okay, I'm lashing out at my friends because I hate my job right now. Oh, I don't want to do that. That's not good. Why am I taking it out on them?
Right. And I think it's really cool that you said proactive effort, because marriage counseling is usually what? A reactive effort. You know, all these different things. And even just kind of like switching gears real quick, what's the one thing that most men's partners say that gets them most angry, you're just like your father.
Yeah, that'll get
And
you.
that is that giant shadow that creeps up
Yep.
and smashes on you like a tidal wave.
Fuck.
Yeah. And it's like those moments, it's like, well, what did she mean by that? Am I really like him? No way, I'm not like that. No. And that hint of denial comes in. And what's the first step in addiction? Denial.
Yep.
So it's like looking at it from that aspect and going back to the proactive efforts that we can do to change this is, after I lost her, it was a reaction. Me going to this therapist was a reaction of losing her, but it was a proactive effort to make the changes needed in order to be happy with myself to then come back together and mend the relationship, or at least try to mend the relationship in which state we are in right now.
Yeah.
And it's going beautifully because I'm actually making progress and seeing changes, and I'm not so stuck in my ego about it, because I look at it the same way I see the healthcare industry and the fitness industry. Healthcare is normally a reactive effort nowadays. Yep. Oh, you broke your leg, go to the hospital. Oh, you're sick, go get some medicine. Oh, you're in pain. Here's some painkillers, which I'm absolutely ferocious about when it comes to that. Anyways, I heard something and it's stuck with me for so long that healthcare starts with self-care. And, if we can apply that same principle to our masculinity and to our relationships, to our marriages, to even our relationships with our kids. I've seen a family counselor on, things that I struggle as a father. Like, I remember one of my bodybuilding days, my daughter was very, very young, and I remember raising my voice and it scared her.
Yeah.
And that was a defining moment to where I said, okay, that was my dad. Like, I don't want that. Because now she's crying. I'm looking at her in the face and I feel like a shitty dad.
Yep.
But instead of beating ourselves up, thinking we're a shitty dad, or telling the kid that they need to stop crying, it's saying, no, I'm sorry.
Right.
That was completely wrong of me. And seeing a family counselor on saying, okay, how can I communicate better with my children?
Yeah.
How can I be a little bit more proactive so I don't react to her? What things can I do in her daily regimen that might have mitigated the risk of that issue even coming up?
Yeah. I think that's it's a beautiful piece of vulnerability, because I think the juncture you're talking about, that moment in time, what most people's reaction is, and this goes, if you don't spend a lot of time thinking about your emotions, this shit flies through your head at 1,000,000 miles a second and you don't even notice it. And like all of a sudden you're way over here in some different emotion. You have no idea how you got there. But what happens to most people in that moment is you have a burst of anger. Daughter starts crying. You start to feel guilty that they're crying. And that guilt is like one of the most painful emotions. Like guilt and shame, those two emotions are the ones that people will spend as much of their resources as they can to avoid. So very quickly, your brain makes the shift from guilt to either more anger. Why the fuck are you crying? Cut out the crying. We're in public. Don't do this. You know better. You were being bad, whatever it might be, because you're trying to avoid that guilt because you know you fucked up. And then all of a sudden, a lot of people create a self-justification loop where it's like, well, I had to be like that because if I don't toughen this kid up now, then she'll never be tough and she'll have a tough time in life. And it's not my fault. She did this. And it's like, that's how you spiral out of control. But when you start to wake up like you did and you start to actually sit with the emotion for a second and go, ooh, I feel guilt. Probably feel guilt because I acted in a way I don't believe in. Okay, now I got to sit with that. It's going to hurt initially, but it's going to help you to not encounter that situation in the future. And it's such an important part of what I believe you could call like divine masculinity, or the ideal type of masculinity, which is it's the protector role. But to be in that protector role, you need to be very, very aware of your own emotions so that you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting others. Because a lot of times we misguide our protector into, I'm protecting me and fuck you. And it's like, how can I protect others? And that starts with emotional awareness, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, it's actually pretty profound that you just use the words self-justification loop, because that's literally what I think I struggle with the most in at least a romantic relationship.
Mm.
I have a very amazing, constructive, beautiful relationship with my children, and I've found my divine masculinity of being a parent. Now it's me finding the divine masculinity of being in a relationship. But
Yeah.
how you do anything is how you do everything. So I'm now kind of looking at all of the principles in which I, speak and behave, and, don't go into those self-justification loops with my children.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come over here to my relationship, and it all just comes from a place of self.
Yeah.
Even when I have those insecure moments, like everybody does, and there are times where I just completely just lose that awareness,
Mhm.
and those are the absolute worst. When you're sitting there and you're literally justifying why you feel like shit.
Yeah.
It makes zero sense afterwards.
Yeah.
Like I kind of had this realization more recently, and I was like, why did I feel that way? Oh, wait. And just like you just said, it's like, oh, I'm probably overwhelmed with work.
Yep.
Or it's because I'm trying to do things that aren't aligned with my belief system or my value.
Yeah.
Or I'm saying yes to too many things, and I'm saying yes to people who I maybe shouldn't be saying yes to.
Yeah.
So that was a really powerful part, and very profound. So thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what you said.
Super deep.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said about the self-justification loop, and in relation to your relationship. I mean, I literally noticed this in myself today. So I was driving to go pick up my girlfriend, and as I was driving to go pick her up, she texted me like 3 times with like updates like, hey, I could actually meet you over here instead. And just like, I noticed myself getting all fucking stressed out. And like, what I wanted to do when she first got in the car, when I got to her, was like be snappy with her and be like, hey, don't text me a bunch when I'm driving. Like, what the hell? Like, you're distracting me. Like, what if I crash? Da 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 da. I checked in with myself for a second as I was driving, and I went, okay, 3 texts shouldn't really annoy me that much. I could just ignore them. It's not like I have to respond to them while I'm driving. I can just meet her there. It's fine. And when I checked in with myself for a second, what I noticed was like, oh, I haven't gotten a lot done today. I kind of had a lazy day before this. I was feeling bad about that. And then as soon as I had something external to latch onto instead of the internal state of feeling like I hadn't done what I was supposed to today, then I was like, oh, there's that external thing. So it's like once I had that awareness, I was able to opt out and go, okay, I'm not pissed about that. So when she gets in the car, I'm gonna be like, hey babe, how's it going? It's really good to see you. How was your day? And it's like choosing that consciously just totally changed. We could have had an entire rest of the night now where we're kind of like sniping at each other, just both in bad moods. But it's like being able to have that emotional awareness myself and go, okay, it's not really these 3 text messages that is making me this upset, because that's very unreasonable. Here's where it's actually coming from.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said that, like, that's what happened to you today. This happened to me last night, where I got lost. I started justifying my shitty feeling instead of checking in with myself, right? Which now I'm realizing it's like, okay, now that I've done that in that exact present circumstance, I actually, now I'm looking at my processes and I'm saying, is my process for checking in really there?
Right.
Is it effective?
Yeah.
The process I had in place has only been working maybe 90% of the time. So I think another thing on, attaining what, you and I are now referring to as divine masculinity. I think we just created that. We should totally make that intellectual property. Just
make it a shirt.
But on that note, it's like, I think the biggest part for me in achieving divine masculinity is reevaluating my process of being the man I want to be.
Yeah.
And seeing these issues that come up and not instantly jumping to the fear of, oh, well, now she's going to break up with me. Now she doesn't want to be with me. Now she's going to think that I haven't changed. Now she's going to do this. Now she's going to do this. And that's where the feedback,
Yep.
that's where the spiral, that's the spiral. The spiral is after the feedback loop.
Yep.
So luckily, having that awareness before the spiral was set in place, right? Because it used to not be there.
Yeah.
Especially before the counseling, you know. And I think that's what counseling helped me with the most, is giving me a set of tools for me to build the process that works best for me.
Yeah.
Because even though she gave me this trigger log that has these specific questions, I did ask myself some of those questions, but at one point in time in that trigger log, I didn't know how to answer the question, so I immediately just stopped.
Yep. Like, we're done.
Fuck this thing.
Yep.
I'm doing what I want.
Yeah.
Right? That's the ego. Took
Yep.
right over.
Exactly.
Right over. Like complete shadow moment. And dude, this morning I was like, all right, I'm meditating on this, and I'm really gonna go event by event and by event by event and by event and find where the gap in the process was. Just like your business, say for instance, like if you have a gap in your process, if you have a gap in your systems, guess what? Now this person's order didn't go to the Shopify account, and now they're not getting their product, and now you have a bad customer review, and now you're getting less SEO on Google.
Yep.
Right? And, you know, I kind of looked at that myself, and I'm just saying, you know, where was my system? Where's my gap in my system? Just like I have gaps of systems in my business, I have to approach it with the same logical approach. And that's the only way to get that fight or flight turned off. And I think for men, counseling is the biggest tool you can have.
Yeah.
And especially seeing multiple counselors, multiple therapies. Like I've seen an EMDR therapist. I've seen a different type of trauma therapist. I've seen a codependency therapist, a family counselor. I've seen a men's counselor, a love coach, a life coach, a business coach. And taking all of these different assets and tools and people who I've had to help for is the only reason I'm able to put these tools together to create a system to then therefore have a happy relationship with a woman. Yeah. It's not the woman's fault, man.
Right. Exactly.
It's the man's fault. It's the ego's fault.
And I think we can get so tied up in the biggest lie that society tells us, which is men shouldn't have emotions. So we jump through a lot of mental hurdles to only feel one of the couple of acceptable, air quotes, emotions that we're supposed to feel. And it's like a lot of times this shit just stems from insecurity. And you know what the best way to work through your insecurity is? Actually acknowledging it's there and figuring out where it came from. And the nice thing about having a counselor or a therapist or someone maybe that you just trust is that you have a nonpartisan third party to actually bounce your emotions off of, where you can feel safe. And it's like a lot of times we don't feel that with our friends because like, what if I get judged? What if they hate me? The nice thing about a therapist is if you feel like you overshared, just fucking don't go to that therapist again. Go to a different one. You're good to go. Doesn't matter. So it's like, it's a safe space for you to actually share those emotions that are really the cause of what's happening underneath. Because I think what happens to me all the time is I'll feel insecure and it'll be something insignificant. Like it's happened less recently, but I remember with some girls I previously used to date, I would just get so insecure. I'd be like, let me see your phone. Are you texting other guys? Da, 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 da. That sort of like possessive behavior. And I would always try to justify it with like, well, yeah, but she went out last night and didn't tell me she was going out. And it's like, no, it was just my insecurity driving that. And once I was able to acknowledge that, it's like now I'm to a healthy place where I'm actually in an open relationship now, which is a whole separate topic. That's a test in and of itself. But yeah, I've gotten to the place now where it's like I'll see a guy flirting with my girlfriend and oh well, good, she's getting some attention. We have some very clear rules about like when we're both out together, we're with each other. But if someone wants to flirt with her and I know that makes her feel good, awesome. I actually think it's kind of funny and it makes me feel good because I'm like, oh, clearly she's hot shit because someone else is flirting with her. That makes me feel good. But it's like it had to get there over the course of a long period of time of me acknowledging the insecurity over and over again. And once you acknowledge the insecurity, you can start to get to the root causes. For me, that was just like not feeling like I was enough. as a kid, and especially through like middle school and high school, experiencing a bit of bullying where it was just like, I'm not good enough. And that just gets internalized. And once that's so internalized, then you have this basis of insecurity you're always working off of. And from there, it's just like poison. You can poison a lot of relationships that way.
Yeah. And I mean, I can personally say like that's happened to me on multiple scenarios. I've always had that insecurity of I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy because I never met my parents' expectations, or because something wasn't done right. So I had to go out and do it again. And I kept on having to go out and do it again because I was just too stupid. I guess I don't know how to do things right. Right. So, and with the polyamory, dude, props to you. I mean, I personally, that's not, how I prefer to do it. And everybody has their own choice.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to tell anybody what to do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's some strength right there, man.
I think it's
actually something I'm working on now is being able to even, look at her and then look across the gym or something and some guy here and, she's kind of, I'm like, okay, I have two choices here.
Yeah.
I can either be that guy and walk up and make it all awkward and therefore make her feel like pressured or scared or intimidated of what I'm thinking. So she doesn't want to come home or she doesn't want to be around me later. Or I can just keep doing my thing and just trust the fact that nothing's going to happen because let's face it, if we've been together almost 2 years, I highly doubt some random person is going to break that apart in little smithereens. Yeah. So where is this worry coming from? Yeah. Right. That's something I personally had to work through. And that's something I can confidently say, like, thank God it's not there anymore.
Yes.
But how many men walk around like that? That's, I think it's more prominent than most people would like to admit, and, I'm not sitting here, praising speech therapy and bowing to it. I think that, men could also receive these other messages through plant medicine for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because in those experiences, from especially mine, that ego death, that check, and, just from that reminiscing of that moment, things don't really seem that big of a deal anymore when you're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Your life becomes much more important. Your relationship becomes much more important. And you start to really identify and see the bullshit you're creating on your own.
Yeah.
So I think whatever path anybody takes, as long as it's a proactive path, that's a win.
Yes.
And that's what'll create, the divine masculinity.
Yeah. But I think it's that path to self-mastery that I think so Dr. Dan has this framework, and I won't dive too much into it because I don't think he's released it fully yet, but it's the mastery mindset versus the mystery mindset. And the mastery mindset is the typically masculine mindset where we strive to conquer and we strive to, okay, I'm going to get every metric and I'm going to figure out everything and I'm going to get all the data and I'm going to win. And like, that's the mastery mindset. I'm going to master what I'm going out to strive. And that has its place. It has its uses. It's not like that works for some things. But then there's the mystery mindset, and that's being the inquisitive person, the one that investigates, the one that tries to learn more, that tries to see why something's coming up. And like, that's where most men struggle, is they don't have much of that mystery mindset. I've certainly been in that place, and I constantly have to check in with myself because most men don't ask a question when an emotion comes up. Like, where did that come from? Why did I just feel that? Was that really about the other person? Because like you're saying, it's like if some random guy at the gym picked her up out of nowhere, he actually did you a favor. Because guess what? That relationship wasn't for you.
Right.
Like in the secure frame of mind, that's like, okay, cool. You just saved me a lot of wasted time because this could have happened 10 years down the road. So that's where I've come to now is like, if someone was to steal my girlfriend away, air quotes, forever, then cool. That means that wasn't the relationship for me because I have so much trust and belief in myself that I know that I have something to offer that's beautiful. And that comes from a place of investigating and digging up these insecurities over and over again and going, where did that come from? Why do I have that? Oh, that was my parents. Oh, that was some kid in high school who made fun of me. Oh, that was the first girl that I was with who cheated on me. Oh, that was this. Once you start to root those out, you start to not, what's the saying? Hurt people hurt people.
Yep.
Like, people who are hurt are the ones that hurt others. And when you start to systematically go through and find those hurts that you've experienced and you start to remove them from your brain, all of a sudden you're not acting out that system anymore.
Right. And I heard something very similar. Someone had mentioned to me, every man has an inner master and an inner dog, right? And the fact of the matter is that men don't choose to be the master a lot of times. Men just have an untrained dog that just goes.
Yeah.
And, chases after the mailman.
Yep.
And that's the ego side of things. And it's trying to protect us. The dog is trying to protect us.
Yeah.
He's a foreign object. It goes and attacks, but in reality, it's just fucking us over.
Yeah.
So, no, I 100% agree with that.
Yeah.
It's been really interesting, and I kind of like the mystery there. That's the inquisitive, and that is a different way that I haven't heard before. So I'm pretty excited to learn more about that when it does come about.
Well, I'll share offline here. I'll share with you some of the framework, because we had it at one of the workshops for Fit for Service. So he gave us a sneak peek. So you can definitely hear about it. I just want to release it to the world when it's not mine to release. So,
well, thank you.
So we're getting towards the end here. Any closing thoughts just on masculinity as a whole, things you've noticed for yourself, maybe some just action steps for people?
Yeah, I've found just in my personal journey with masculinity that the more feminine I am, the more masculine I feel. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The softer I am, the more people respect me as a man.
Yep.
And not a douche.
Yep. Exactly.
And I guess the biggest action steps, and these are just from my experience, in no way, shape, or form, and I am a medical professional, am I a psychologist or a guru, but if you're having like these issues and if you're feeling these insecurities, like, the best thing you can do is proactively seek a resolution before you have to react to something that is far more catastrophic.
Yeah.
And something that could literally crumble your life.
Right.
If you don't know how to handle it, because it's not about what happens, it's about, how we cope with it and what we do with that coped behavior.
I love it. And to that point, it's like, as you proactively pursue these things, your relationships get better. Like, that's the beauty of it. All of your relationships with men, with women, with old people, with younger people, they get better, because every man and every woman has that balance of masculine and feminine within them. And when they are their most in balance, you are at your most complete. You are your best version of yourself. So that's a rising tide that helps all ships rise. And as you craft that within yourself proactively, your relationships, you're going to be happy more. It's like, oh, fucking sweet. Turns out if I do a little extra work on the side here, I get more out of my partner. And some of the things that we're trying to like insecurely hold on to actually just come naturally. They want to spend more time with us because we're this positive, shining light of joy, rather than this like gremlin in the corner that's like, don't leave me. Where are you going? It's like, as you become that joyful human that's completed yourself and undone some of your traumas, you become the person who other people naturally have a magnetism to. They want to be around you because they're like, oh, that guy gets it. He's fucking got his shit together.
Right, because your vibration's not all over the place. Like, you don't know how to, just let things go. You can just like hone in on your vibration. You can just let that go, let that go. All these things that are coming in to mess up whatever's happening here, it's if you don't allow those things to affect you anymore,
right,
you're grounded and you're aligned.
Yes.
And now your results are not dictating your identity. Your identity is creating your result.
Yes. Absolutely. I love it. It's a great conversation. I think it's going to help a lot of people to just understand a little bit deeper from two manly men here that have probably gone through quite a bit of pain that we've caused ourselves over the years that was just not necessary. So it's appreciate you being on. I appreciate you sharing so vulnerably. If you want to share a little bit just how people can find you online, Instagram, what's the best place to get at you?
100%, man. Thank you so much for this opportunity. And dude, it was so nice to connect with you, not even just from the Fit for Service Mastermind, but man to man. I think this will wholeheartedly help, a lot of men, because hopefully some men hear this and they realize they're like, oh, wow, I didn't even know I had that issue.
Yeah.
Which is normally those. But yeah, so people can find me normally on Instagram. It's at Nathan Kohlerman. I'm sure that, I can send that over to you and then it can be in comments or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But website is being built right now. It's www.newintention.com. So that'll be up shortly where I'll have my in-person services, my online programs that will hopefully eventually become very much to life here pretty soon. Yeah. And then I'm also putting up some events, some retreats and other stuff like that.
Awesome. And New Intention, is that NEU? Do I have that right?
Yes, sir. It's NEU intention.com.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, my man, and appreciate it. And talk to you soon. Well, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I thought this was a pretty powerful one. I think Nathan had a lot of really, really vulnerable insights just about his personal journey through his masculinity. And I really tried to open up myself about my personal journey through masculinity. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it out with a friend, especially if it's a young man who you think could use some of this info. I definitely wish I had known a lot of the stuff that I know now when I was younger. Would have made my journey a lot shorter, and I would have been a lot less of a douchebag. So I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, 5-star rating is always awesome. If you can drop a positive review on the podcast, that helps as well, and share it out with a friend. We are also on YouTube, and if you do not already have me followed on Instagram, it is at Alexander Diesel. You can go follow me there and you get all the updates about when I'm dropping new episodes of the podcast. But I appreciate you listening as always, and I will see you soon.